let's get into our power poll. Every week we nominate, or every week we
nominate.
We rank.
Yeah.
My goodness,
Sure, I know.
every week
It's okay.
we rank the 12 FBS teams in the Lone Star State from 12 to 1. In our power rankings, we call it the College Football Power Poll. We will start with number 12, Max.
Okay.
It's the Rice Owls.
Yeah, that's the Rice Owls.
And I hate to say it, but they're probably going to stay here for the remainder of the year.
I don't know how they get out of it. Yeah.
Now listen.
Okay,
I'm very happy. I'm very happy that they won.
Okay? Yeah, me too. That would have stunk.
I'm very happy that they beat Prairie View A&M.
It's never good when we're on winless watch.
No. I mean, they won't go winless. The offense actually looked great. Tyler Stelling threw for more than 400 yards and 5 touchdowns. Samuel Stewart ran for 100 yards.
Yeah.
I mean, they did give up 44 points to Prairie View A&M team playing without their best player, Trey Green.
Yeah.
But,
I don't know. Prairie View's done a lot of different stuff this year.
Look, Rice is probably finishing 1-11. That's probably what's going to happen now, okay? But they're not going winless. We haven't had a winless team in a while.
Yeah.
So this is very, very, very good. Everybody needs to get one win. So I'm glad Rice got their win. But they do stay at number 12.
Yeah.
Number 11, Texas State. Ugh.
This wasn't good. I'm a little surprised you moved them all the way to 11th, but I
Well,
kind of understand
but
it based on what happened ahead of them.
Everything else ahead of them, I had to put them.
I understand.
I don't think. I mean, honestly, what I'd love to do is I'd love to move them into the three-way tie for 10th, but
Yeah.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
They were terrible. Pretty much the entire game. They jump out to a 3-0 lead, 4 minutes into the game, and then just terrible. The offense
That was as good as it was going to get.
The offense was just awful. He just even though like Tyler Jones continues to be the only semi-reliable player for this offense.
And even he's kind of 50-50 sometimes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the running game can't get going.
Right.
And the defense just can't, the defense is not going to stop anybody. This is not a good Louisiana Lafayette team, guys. Mm-hmm. But they lose 27-3, and they make them look like this defensive powerhouse. They're not a defensive powerhouse. They're not very good. So Texas State comes in at number 11 this week. Not because I think they're necessarily the 11th best team, because I think that this bottom half is really scrunched together, and they're all pretty even.
Yeah.
Maybe with the exception of Rice, but overall, I don't know. We got teams tied for number 10. UTEP and UTSA, and they played the silliest game of the year.
Yeah.
They go to 5 overtimes, and it's UTEP that pulls out the 52-49 win in 5 overtimes. The good news, I mean, I don't know what to draw from this game. Besides, Max, your theory that weird football happens in the Alamo Dome is just gaining steam.
I'm telling you, man.
It's just gaining
weird.
steam.
Yeah, if it's a big game in the Alamo Dome, it's going to be weird. If it's not a big game, probably not going to be that weird.
Aaron Jones ran for 128 yards and a touchdown. He also caught 2 passes for touchdowns.
Yeah.
Ryan Metz was decent enough, 211 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
I mean, UTSA actually was okay in this game, I thought.
Let's be great. I mean, UTEP's got to be happy, but at the same time, UTSA pretty despondent about losing this one.
They should be.
And they should be.
They
Absolutely.
should be.
But I mean, you could tell
because they were looking like they had a shot to win to make a bowl game.
And this
pretty much dashes those hopes.
Yeah, they need to win this one.
They let one get away here.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think that if they play this game, what's funny is that I think if they play this game 100 times, I think UTSA probably wins this game 75.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
I think they were the better team, but they didn't make the plays when they needed to, and that's kind of been the story of their year, is that they can't come up with the plays when they need them to stay in games or to win games or finish games off, and they just couldn't do it. Now, it was fun. I'm happy everybody at the Alamo Dome seemed to have a good time. 5 overtimes is a wild game. I don't think – this is what happens, in my view, this is what happens when 2 below-average teams play, is that stuff like this happens.
Yep.
Craziness, and it seems like they're pretty evenly matched. Great win for UTEP. They're trending upward now, but overall, I think there's just a lot of negatives to draw from this game.
Yeah.
I hate to be negative Nelly here, but I just think that overall, I don't think either of these teams are coming out of this game feeling really good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's just me. Number 8. Here's a team we can feel good about.
Yeah.
The North Texas Mean Green.
Yeah, man.
Talked about them a little bit earlier, but North Texas feeling very, very good after the win over Army, and the key here is that they played some defense.
Yeah, man. Defense is getting better almost every week, it seems like.
The defense is trending up, and that's a very good sign because they're going to go up against some offenses that can hurt them. in the final stretch. And we played it out a little bit earlier, but there are two more. They're 4-3. They need 2 more wins to get bowl eligible. And there are, in my view, two more winnable games: UTEP and UTSA. Now they're both on the road, and it's not going to be easy. But if they continue to get production like this from the offensive line and from Jeffrey Wilson, then I think that they're going to be tough to beat.
Yep.
I think they're going to be a viable actual bowl team if they keep this up.
Yeah.
So they come in at number 8. Number 7, SMU.
Woo boy!
My goodness.
And it didn't even get close down the stretch. I mean, I just kept checking the score, and I just whoa.
I'll tell you what. So SMU jumped out to a 21-0 lead because Houston looked like hot garbage.
Yeah.
They jump out to a 21-point lead. I made the joke on Twitter that Tom Herman was looking for Austin area real estate. And they jump out to that lead, and I was thinking that exact same thing.
Yeah.
I was thinking, all right, Houston's going to make a run here, and this is going to get real dicey at the end. Yeah. And it just never came.
Happened. Yeah.
Just never came.
Yeah.
Now, part of this is, and it's hard to separate, because part of this is that I think Houston played like dog crap, and we'll get to them in a moment.
Right.
The other part of it is that, like, SMU played their guts out.
Right.
The defense, I've never seen the defense fly around like that.
Right.
They were getting in the backfield. They were pressuring Greg Ward Jr. And the offense finally, like, Ben Hicks looked super comfortable in that offense.
Yeah, and I think we felt like he would get there. But it just took some time.
I'm not saying he went out there and put on a master class.
Right.
But he looked comfortable, which is, I think, a step forward from what we've seen from them.
And I also think it's probably a tribute to his teammates, because I do think there was some element of, I have to do this all myself at some point. Like there's a sense of ownership and responsibility as a quarterback in that system of, I have to drive this ship. And that's tough when you're just sort of thrown into the fire.
The other thing about it is that they actually ran the ball.
Yeah.
Like Braden West, and they don't have to. That's the thing about SMU, is that they don't have to run the ball for 500 yards.
Right.
They ran, like, Braden West ran for 18 times for 115 yards and a score. That's all you need.
Yeah, and he's had some nice performances in a row now. Yeah.
Yes. So, just a really, really great win for SMU. They're definitely trending upward. They're still probably not making a bowl. Okay, they're 3-4.
Right, but they've got to be, and that's the other thing. I'm sure Chad Morris and his staff, they've got to be ruining the close games that have slipped away before this, because they have looked a lot better each week. Like, they just keep creeping and creeping and creeping, and I think it all just kind of blew up here in a good way. Mm-hmm. But they got to be looking back at the Tulsa loss. You know, it's like, oh man, we were right there. We had it, and we couldn't quite finish it.
It's stuff like that. But I will tell you that there's a lot of positive trends going for SMU.
Yeah,
right now,
so I mean, no surprise, obviously.
Exactly.
Right?
And this week, who do they play this week? They got they got the week off. Never mind. So they play Tulane. They're at Tulane. Winnable game. Winnable game.
Yeah.
Number 6, the Texas Longhorns.
I mean, we already talked about them a little bit.
We did talk about them a little bit, but this team just isn't very good.
Yeah.
They're just not very good. Like, tell me who their best win is against. Is it still Notre Dame?
Yeah, I mean,
Notre
by
Dame's
default,
probably
right?
By default, because
by default.
You know who their other 2 wins are against?
Yeah, Iowa State
and UTEP.
Now, I would say their most complete win was probably against Iowa State.
I agree.
Right, as far as like relative to ability,
it's literally also the only game they played defense in.
Right,
like those 2, like that in UTEP, but UTEP,
right.
Kind of throw that one out in the wash.
Yeah,
this Texas team just isn't very good. We said it earlier, and we said it I said it the day after they beat Notre Dame.
Yeah.
I said we got to pump the brakes on Shane Buechele.
Yeah.
Because at some point this season
he's going to look like a freshman.
He's going to look like a freshman.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Do you know
he's
why?
A freshman.
Because he's a freshman.
Yeah.
And it's now to the point where they're asking him to go out there and win this game pretty much by himself.
Yeah.
And he's not going to do that. Now, I thought he was fine. 17 of 24 for 222 yards and 2 scores. Right. Okay? But the bottom line is that when the running game doesn't play well enough,
right,
that they put the pressure on him.
Yeah. And let's be fair. I mean, like, okay, the running game doesn't perform well enough, but I don't think I think the best player on offense is Foreman.
I agree.
I don't think it's close.
They
either.
sacked him 3 times.
Yeah.
They sacked him 3 times. They broke up 4 of his passes. And overall, if this defense is not, he lost a fumble. The defense just doesn't give them a chance to win.
Right.
The defense just isn't very good. And even though I thought they played okay, but they just they are 2 eggs short of a dozen is what they are.
But I also think, there's a lot of things that make you scratch your head about this team, all right? In Charlie Strong's press conference this morning, he talks about, Devin Duvernay, he might be the fastest guy out there. Well, totally target him more than once.
Yeah, totally agree. Maybe take a couple shots.
Maybe try to find him more than once.
And this was such vintage Bill Snyder.
Right.
They sit on the ball for 38 minutes.
Bill and the
They
Magic
grind it out.
Man.
They get just enough conversions. They convert 2 fourth downs.
Yeah.
The biggest thing here is that Texas 10 penalties, 72 yards. They won the turnover battle. Okay,
right.
They won the turnover battle 3-0, and they still lost.
Yeah.
That is just a team that's not good enough.
Right.
It's a team that just can't cut the mustard.
Yeah, it was pretty much damning every aspect of it. So.
It's just not good. Number 5, Texas Tech, and I struggle to really get upset about this at this point because they are who we thought they were.
I just think here's a question about Texas Tech, right? Because we've sort of talked about this before, but I just think it's a fascinating question. Mm-hmm. You are in charge of you're in charge of evaluating Cliff Kingsbury. You are now the AD at Texas Tech, all right? Mm-hmm. You have easily one of the top 3 offensive coaches in the country, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, what they are doing on offense is insane. Mm-hmm. Absolutely insane. But they just cannot figure it out on defense. You have a cutting edge, top of the line offensive coach, right? Mm-hmm. There are not 3 or 4 coaches better at offense than Cliff Kingsbury. But if they do this every year, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. And it's still, we're early, but you don't get that long as a head coach. Mm-hmm. But if they just do this every year, how do you even assess it?
No.
You have a prolific offensive team,
mm-hmm.
prolific,
mm-hmm.
and they can't win because they are garbage on defense
mm-hmm.
constantly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to me, that's a tougher decision than I think people are giving it credit for, right? Mm-hmm. I think that it's bubbled up a couple times this year. Oh, Cliff needs to win X number of games, or he's going to be on the hot seat there. Well, is it that simple? When you clearly, if you look at the numbers, they are obscenely great at at offense. Mm-hmm. They're just obscenely terrible at defense. I think that's really tough.
It's an impossible team to evaluate fairly because they are the best offense in the nation.
I mean,
they're the
insane.
best offense in the nation, and they're also the worst defense in the nation.
Yeah.
And you don't want part of you says, do you cut off your nose to spite your face? It's if you were to change out anything about the Cliff Kingsbury offense, if you've changed out anything about their offense, they would get worse. Okay,
yeah.
But something obviously has to change defensively, and I mean, doesn't it start with recruiting? Doesn't it start with the talent base? That at this point they're just not good enough.
Sure.
They don't have the horses to run.
Right. But they always have the weapons on offense. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm with you. I have no idea what to. I don't get
them. And they score. I mean, Pat Mahomes went for over 800 total yards and they lost.
I mean, it's
at
insane.
Home.
Insane.
At home. Now Oklahoma, I think is pretty good. But here's the thing: look who's still on the schedule. Baylor,
yep.
Texas to a certain extent if they get their wheels their wheels on. There are teams that can go toe to toe with them. I don't know. Number 4, TCU.
By default, right? Where else can you put them?
Where else can I put them?
Yeah.
I mean, they're better than all. I mean, I think they'll beat Tech and I think they'll beat Texas, but there's not a very good team, and they once again did not give themselves a chance to win. Deontay Gray fumbles the opening kickoff. West Virginia goes down and scores. They're up 6-0. Next possession, Kenny Hill throws a bad interception, and I was talking with Brad Hilliard, one of our coworkers, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm now to the point where I just expect Kenny Hill to throw an interception in the first half." And it's a bad one. And so that stakes him to 13-0, and that's ball game.
Right.
Because you're not going to go on the road against what may be the best team in the Big 12 in West Virginia. You're not going to go on the road and stake them to a 13-0 lead and then be like, "We got this."
Yeah.
You're simply not.
Yeah.
You're not. And so it's really frustrating for me. It's really frustrating to watch TCU because the talent is there. But clearly something's not clicking. They were never put in a position to win because of dumb turnovers and just farting around. And once again, we are now 7 games into the 2016 TCU season, and they have not played a full game yet. They have not played a complete game. They haven't. And I wonder if that's just not going to come. Number 3, Houston. What the H was that?
I don't know, man.
But they go. But again, this is now 4 out of 5 games that they have played teams that they are better than, and they fart around.
Yeah.
Okay? They should have lost to Cincinnati. They did lose to Navy. Then they played, I think, Texas State, and they killed them. Okay? Yeah. And then they should have lost to Tulsa.
Right.
And then they did lose to SMU.
Yeah.
Okay? You can't play with fire this many times. And how long have I been saying this? I've been saying this all year. I've been sitting in this chair saying this all year, that if you're Houston, you can't fart around. You got to put your foot on the throat.
Yeah.
And they just came out and were terrible. They were terrible.
Yeah.
And the other thing, I don't mean to be tooting my own horn here, but toot, 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 toot. Ever since that Oklahoma game, I've been talking about how Greg Ward Jr. is banged up and how it's eventually going to cost him a game, and what happens.
Yeah.
He's banged up. He's clearly not right. And now he's hobbling. Like he's like, and if he can't run, he's, that takes away a lot of his value. And I didn't think Greg Ward Jr. was bad in this one, but he's clearly hurt. He's clearly hurt.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, it's getting to the point now where, like, is Houston the most disappointing team in the state?
Yeah, after that start, you'd have to say they're getting there, right?
Like, they beat Oklahoma, and all we're thinking is the path is clear.
Yeah,
to the
we're
college
getting ready for
playoff.
that Louisville game, baby.
We're getting ready for the Louisville. If they had dropped the game to Louisville, you go, okay, you tip your cap, Lamar Jackson beat you.
Right.
That's fine. Now they've lost to 2 teams that they are, in my view, pretty clearly better than.
Yeah.
Super disappointing.
Yeah.
Number 2, Baylor, week off. They played Texas.
I mean, Baylor remains in the position we expected them to be in. They should be undefeated at this point, but the real tests are yet to come.
And number 1, still Texas A&M. And I understand that Baylor fans are going to moan. How can you put a 1-loss team above a undefeated team? Well, Baylor hasn't beaten anybody of note yet.
Yeah.
That's one thing. But the other thing is that, like, I think there are – this is going to sound really weird, but, like, I'm more encouraged by the A&M loss to Alabama than I think I am by any other result in the state besides North Texas's win over Army.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense.
Because they go to Tuscaloosa, and first drive of the second half, they go down and they take the lead.
Yeah.
Okay? And here's the thing. If you watch this game, they got dominated in the first half. They got absolutely mollywopped in the first half and went into halftime down 13-7.
Not bad.
Okay? Yeah. They held it together. And then they come out and they take the lead. And you start looking around and you go, holy cow, are they going to do it? No, they're not. No. Because Alabama's a godless killing machine.
Yeah.
Alabama's incredible.
Yeah, I don't think people understand. I think something that's come up on this show before.
That's the best. I'll say this. That Alabama team is the best college football team I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, like I said, they still could be good. And the thing that I think makes Alabama great, we struggle so much with how bad the defenses are in the Big 12. And a lot of people attribute it to the fact that they're seeing these up-tempo offenses constantly, and there's not enough depth, right? Like, you get cycled through these games, and you just run out of gas on defense because you're playing these offenses that just keep coming at you and coming at you, and you spend more time on the field than any defense ever has, on average in years before. And here's the thing about Alabama. They're all first stringers. You can go 3 deep at every position, and all those guys would start for every other freaking team in the country. And I think that's why they stay great on defense, because they just cycle in fresh guys that are also incredible 4- and 5-star talents.
Totally agree. And for me,
godless killing machine.
This game speaks more to Alabama than it does A&M. And now, if you're A&M, like, the door's open still, because I will tell you that an 11-1 SEC West runner-up
got a chance.
Has got a great chance of making the playoff. I'm not saying it's happening.
Yeah.
But they need to make sure they keep their head up, and now they get New Mexico State this week, which is a nice little come down.
What would be interesting, right?
There's still 2 big games on the schedule, LSU and Ole Miss.
You can sit here, and I think you automatically default to, okay, they might sneak into the playoff if they're 11-1 or whatever. But then they'll be the 4th seed, and they'll have to play Alabama again. if there's enough chaos, right, I could totally see enough teams losing for the college football playoff committee to go, no, they're the 3rd seed.
Yeah.
And they may have a shot.
There's there's still a lot to play for, and I still think they're the best team in the state. So those are my power rankings. Number 12, Rice. Number 11, Texas State. Tied for 10th, UTEP and UTSA. Number 8, North Texas. Number 7, SMU. Number 6, Texas. Number 5, Texas Tech. Number 4, TCU. Number 3, Houston. Number 2, Baylor. And number 1, Texas A&M.